I never thought I'd have to deal with someone like Karen when I moved into Oak Ridge Estates. After 30 years of military service, I was looking forward to a peaceful retirement. The neighborhood seemed perfect: quiet streets, well-maintained homes, and just enough space between houses to give everyone their privacy. But I quickly learned that peace wasn't on the agenda of our HOA president, Karen Wilkins. It started with little things. I'd put up a small American flag by my front door, nothing excessive, just a standard-sized flag on a bracket. The very next day, there was a notice taped to my door. Flag display violates Section 4.3 of the HOA guidelines. Remove immediately. I was confused. I'd read the bylaws carefully before purchasing the home, and there was nothing prohibiting tasteful patriotic displays. When I called the HOA office, I was connected directly to Karen. "Mr. Mitchell," she said with a sigh that suggested I was already wasting her time, "we have standards in Oak Ridge Estates. Your flag is not in an approved location. You need to submit a formal request to the Architectural Committee." Her tone was dripping with condescension, as if I were a child who couldn't understand basic instructions. I followed the rules. I submitted the paperwork. 2 weeks later, I received a denial with no explanation. When I saw Karen at the community mailboxes the next day, she barely acknowledged me, merely glancing my way with a smirk that said everything about her feelings toward me. It wasn't just the flag, though. Something about me bothered her, and I soon realized what it was: my veteran status. The first time I wore my old service jacket to get the mail, a habit on chilly mornings, Karen happened to be walking her small, yapping dog. She stopped dead in her tracks, staring at me like I'd committed some grievous offense. "We don't do that here," she said, waving her hand dismissively at my jacket. "This isn't a military base. It makes people uncomfortable." I was stunned. In all my years, I'd never encountered someone who found a simple service jacket uncomfortable. Things escalated from there. More citations appeared. My grass was half an inch too tall. My garbage can remained at the curb for 30 minutes after collection. My mailbox didn't match the approved color scheme. I addressed each violation promptly, hoping to avoid conflict. But then something strange started happening. My mail began disappearing. At first, I thought it was just the usual mix-ups that happen with postal service. A missing bill here, a delayed package there. But when I didn't receive my Veterans Affairs check for 2 months running, I knew something was wrong. I called the VA office, and they confirmed the checks had been sent out. They suggested I file a report with the local post office. The postal worker I spoke with seemed troubled. "Mr. Mitchell, this isn't the first complaint we've had from your neighborhood," she said with concern in her voice. I started paying closer attention. I'd check my mailbox every day at the same time, right after delivery. Some days it would be completely empty, which seemed odd. Other veterans in my support group mentioned receiving birthday cards and care packages sent to my address, none of which ever arrived. The final straw came when a certified letter from my daughter, containing photos of my new grandson, never made it to me despite tracking information confirming delivery. That's when my neighbor, Tom Rodriguez, approached me one evening while I was sitting on my front porch. "Sir," he began hesitantly, "I think I should show you something." Tom had installed a security camera facing the street after his son's bike was stolen. What he showed me on his tablet made my blood boil. There, in clear daylight, was Karen, opening my mailbox, rifling through the contents, and stuffing selected pieces into a large handbag. Tom had footage from 3 different days showing the same thing. "I wasn't sure at first," he explained with genuine regret in his voice. "I thought maybe she was delivering something. But then I saw her throwing things away in the park trash can afterward." He swiped to another clip that showed Karen dumping a handful of envelopes into a public garbage bin at the neighborhood park. I was speechless. This wasn't just petty harassment. This was a federal crime. Tom offered to send me the video files, which I gratefully accepted. That evening, I called the police non-emergency line and explained the situation. The officer who took my call transferred me immediately to a detective when I mentioned mail theft. The next morning, Detective Rivera arrived at my home. She viewed the footage with a grim expression. "Mr. Mitchell, this is serious. Mail theft is a federal offense. We'll need to coordinate with the postal inspectors on this." She took my statement and copies of the videos, promising to follow up quickly. 3 days later, I was retrieving what little mail had actually made it to my box when Karen approached. Her usual smug expression was firmly in place as she stopped a few feet away from me. "Finding everything you need?" she asked with mock concern, her voice practically singing with false sweetness. I decided to play along. "Actually, no. I seem to be missing quite a bit of mail lately. You wouldn't happen to know anything about that, would you?" I kept my tone casual, even friendly. Her reaction was immediate, a tightening around her eyes, a slight flush creeping up her neck. But her voice remained steady. "How would I know about your mail? Maybe you're just not as important as you think you are," she said with a dismissive laugh. "Not everyone gets thank you cards just for doing their job." I maintained my composure. "Actually, Karen, some of what I'm missing includes federal documents, VA benefits correspondence, and communications from my family. It's curious that they all seem to disappear between delivery and my collecting them." Something in my calm demeanor must have unsettled her, because she suddenly went on the offensive. "You military types always think you're so special, don't you? Always expecting recognition, special treatment, discounts everywhere. The rest of us work hard too, you know." Her voice had risen, and several neighbors had stepped outside to witness the commotion. "I've never asked for special treatment, Karen. Just the mail that's legally addressed to me." I kept my voice level. That's when she made her fatal mistake. "You don't deserve any of it," she practically shouted, her face contorted with unexpected rage. "All those thank you for your service cards and special veteran discounts and government handouts. It's disgusting." She was breathing heavily now, her control slipping with each word. Tom had emerged from his house during this exchange, and several other neighbors were watching with shocked expressions. Karen suddenly seemed to realize she had an audience. She straightened her designer blouse and tried to reclaim her dignified persona. "I'm simply saying that the HOA has rules about mailbox standards, and yours needs to be replaced," she said, attempting to pivot. "That's not what you just said, Karen," Tom interjected quietly. "We all heard you." Karen shot him a venomous glare before turning on her heel and stalking back to her house. I exchanged glances with Tom, who simply nodded. We both knew what had happened. 2 days later, I received a call from Detective Rivera. "Mr. Mitchell, we've made some progress. The postal inspector executed a search warrant on Ms. Wilkins' property and recovered quite a lot of mail belonging to you and several other residents. We've also got her on camera disposing of mail in public trash receptacles. She's being taken into custody as we speak." I felt no joy at this news, only relief that the harassment might finally end. I thanked the detective and hung up. Minutes later, I heard the commotion outside. Police cars with lights flashing, neighbors gathering on their lawns to watch. From my window, I could see Karen being escorted to a patrol car, her hands cuffed behind her back. Even from a distance, I could hear her protesting loudly. "This is ridiculous. I'm the president of the HOA. Do you know who I am? I was protecting our property values." Her voice carried across the quiet neighborhood. As an officer helped her into the back seat, she caught sight of me watching from my window. "He's the problem," she shouted, jerking her head in my direction. "People like him bring down neighborhoods like this. He doesn't belong here." The officer closed the door, cutting off her tirade. As the patrol car pulled away, neighbors began to approach my house. Tom was the first to reach me, extending his hand. "Sir, I'm sorry about all this. We had no idea." More neighbors followed, introducing themselves, offering support, asking if I needed anything. Many admitted they'd experienced similar harassment from Karen but had been afraid to speak up. It seemed her reign of terror had extended well beyond my mailbox. The next week brought a flurry of activity. The postal inspector contacted me to return the recovered mail, over 60 pieces in total, including VA benefits information, birthday cards, bills, and the photos of my grandson. The HOA board, now minus Karen, called an emergency meeting and issued a formal apology to me and several other residents who had experienced similar treatment. What none of us expected was the media attention. A local reporter caught wind of the story. Apparently, mail theft targeting a veteran was newsworthy, and suddenly my quiet retirement became anything but. The story ran first on local news, then was picked up by national outlets. By complete coincidence, a state senator saw the broadcast and recognized me. 25 years earlier, I'd been part of a rescue operation that had saved his son's unit in Afghanistan. The story took on a life of its own. Karen's preliminary hearing was brief and damning. The evidence against her was overwhelming: video footage, recovered mail, witness statements, and her own incriminating outburst. When the judge announced the charges, mail theft, obstruction of correspondence, harassment, and civil rights violations, Karen's smug demeanor finally cracked. The prosecutor made it clear that mail theft is a federal offense carrying up to 5 years in prison, and targeting a veteran for harassment added additional penalties. The judge set bail at $50,000 and ordered Karen to surrender her passport. As the reality of her situation sank in, Karen's face went from flushed with anger to pale with shock. "But I was just enforcing the rules," she stammered, her voice barely audible as the bailiff led her away. "I was protecting our community." No one in the courtroom seemed convinced, least of all the judge. In the end, Karen was sentenced to 18 months in federal prison, 5 years of probation, and ordered to pay $25,000 in fines and restitution. As she was led from the courtroom, she glanced back at me with an expression of pure hatred mingled with disbelief. She couldn't comprehend that her actions had real consequences. In her mind, she had been justified, protecting her perfect neighborhood from someone she deemed unworthy. Instead, she had become the cautionary tale of Oak Ridge Estates, proof that even in the smallest ponds, power can corrupt absolutely.